Hello everyone, how's it going, and welcome to today's Wild Rift video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you all the 5 best champions that you should play in patch 5.0c. I'm going to include one champion from every single role, from the Baron lane all the way down to the support role. And these are champions that I feel like you should give a try and add to your champion pool, as these are some of the best champions to help you climb to the highest ranks of Wild Rifts. First up in the Baron lane, we have the Monkey King Wukong. Now, Wukong recently received a huge rework in the most recent patch, changing pretty much every single one of his abilities. Now, some would say that one downside of this rework is that he doesn't now have any healing anymore with his first ability, Golden Staff, but this has now been moved to his passive, Crushing Blows. Every time Wukong attacks or uses an ability on an enemy champion, he can grant himself armor and maximum health regen every 5 seconds, and this will help him survive a lot more when trading during the laning phase and also when it comes to team fights. And speaking of team fights, Wukong is one of the best team fighting champions in the game thanks to his ultimate Cyclone, which did get a really big damage buff. And not only that, but Nimbus Strike also got buffed in terms of damage, and also Golden Staff as well. So overall, his damage has been increased by quite a lot, and this means that he could be more of a carry when it comes to Wild Rifts. And if you don't want to play Wukong in the Baron lane, that's totally fine. He can also be played in the jungle as well. Jungle is one of Wukong's best roles as well with the Baron lane. So if you get auto-filled in the jungle, and if you like Wukong, then definitely give him a try there as well. In terms of the build with Wukong, we have the Trinity Force plus Black Cleaver combo. This is a new combo in Wild Rift that can be built now, as it doubles the amount of movement speed that you get with these 2 items. And then you have your boots, which you can either use for armor boots or magic resist boots, depending on the situation of the game. Death Stance for the extra bit of armor and attack damage. But also, this is really good when you get a takedown, then you get that little bit of extra healing. Sterak's Gauge for the massive amount of HP, the attack damage, and also that lifeline passive just in case you do drop really low on health. And since we don't have a lot of armor and magic resist in this build, we go for Twin Guard for the extra stacking armor and magic resist over time, so we can have even more survivability during team fights. Now, one item that is kind of situational is Trinity Force. This could be swapped out for Divine Sunderer. Divine Sunderer is another alternative for Trinity Force, whereas Divine Sunderer is really strong against tanks, as it does more damage the more health the enemy has. But since we have a lot more damage now with Wukong's kit, I feel like Trinity Force is a lot better as a carry item for Wukong, as it gives him more damage overall. As for the runes, I really like Conqueror now, since we have a lot more survivability and we don't really have any more healing. I don't really like Grasping Undying anymore. I think Conqueror is by far the best option to go for. Will give us more healing and more damage during fights. Brutal works really well with Wukong's first ability, Golden Staff, which already does a lot of damage, but this also works with the extra damage from Brutal. Giant Slayer against a lot of bruisers and tanks at the moment in the current meta. This is a no-brainer. And Legend Bloodline for more Omnivamp to help us survive during team fights. And for the secondary rune, you can either take Bone Plating or Second Wind, depending on your matchup in the Baron lane. If you're against melee champions that like to all in, I would recommend Bone Plating. If you're against ranged champions, then highly recommend Second Winds. And for the runes, we have Flash and Ignite to play super aggressive. Use that Ignite to try and get some kill pressure in the laning phase to try and get ahead early on. Moving into the jungle, we have Nautilus. Now, this is not the Nautilus that you're normally used to seeing, but let me cook a second. This full AP Nautilus jungle is incredibly powerful at the moment. We all know Nautilus as this really strong tank. It has a lot of crowd control and can survive a lot. But imagine you have all that crowd control, but you also have a lot of damage at the same time. This is exactly what Nautilus Jungle brings. And over the past few patches, his second ability has been buffed in terms of more base shield value, but also more damage, making his jungle clear actually one of the fastest in the game right now, since his second ability has that AoE auto attack reset, which helps him clear through the camps a little bit quicker. And when it comes to team fights, you can use your ultimate on high value targets and pretty much one-shot them. All you need is your ultimate. They go down to probably about a quarter or even a half health. And when you use your ultimate, you can then combo this with your other abilities to pretty much one-shot the enemy carries, and this is exactly what this build brings. However, it does come with a bit of a problem where this does make Nautilus very squishy, so you are going to die very quickly, so you do need to be a little bit careful. However, with all of his damage, he can do so much and he can be such a big carry for your team. And as you can see with the build, this is exactly what we've gone for, just full ability power, as much damage as possible. The Boots of Mana giving us that early mana regen, but also a lot of ability power and early magic penetration. Horizon Focus is actually going to be our option for a first item. Now, even though Nautilus doesn't really do a lot of damage from range, the crowd control also works as a stack towards Horizon Focus, and Nautilus has multiple ways to crowd control enemy champions. His first ability, his hook, his passive auto attack which stuns, and also his ultimate, which is a knockup. So using your combo during a team fight will be able to proc Horizon Focus, making his burst damage even more powerful. Infinity Orb afterwards, allowing us to crit when enemies are low on health, giving us a bit of ability power. Death Cap for the overall ability power is great, and for the stacking ability power over time. Crown Guard is a bit more of our defensive item, giving us a shield just in case we do get a little bit caught out. And then you have Trident as the last item. Trident can be swapped out for Morello. It kind of depends if the enemy has a lot of shielding or if the enemy has a lot of healing. If they have a lot of shielding, then Trident reduces that shielding, so that'd be the best option. However, if the enemy team has quite a lot of healing, then I highly recommend going for Morellonomicon instead. As for the runes, Electrocute is the best option and more reliable option. However, I do see people also going for First Strike. If you're able to deal the first instance of damage, and if you feel confident enough, then First Strike is probably going to be a better option, since you can do the extra true damage. But sometimes with Nautilus, you are going to get poked out before you can join in a team fight or before you can use your hook. So I just like Electrocute just to deal that guaranteed extra little bit of burst damage. We go for the Precision Tree. As for the rest of the runes, Gathering Storm gives us a lot of ability power over time. Giant Slayer helps us do a lot of damage to tanks and bruisers. This build does really well against squishy champions, but doesn't do very well against tanks and bruisers, so that's where Giant Slayer comes in to help us out. And Legend Alacrity just to give us a bit more of attack speed to help us with the auto attack reset when clearing through the jungle, and also when we auto attack during a team fight to use our stun effectively. And for our secondary rune, we have Overgrowth, just giving us a little bit of health over time. As I mentioned, you know, Nautilus is a little bit squishy and doesn't have a lot of health, so getting Overgrowth means that he can get a bit of health to survive over time. And then of course for summer spells, we go for Smite since we're a jungler, and also we go for Flash. Moving into the mid lane, we have Jace. Again, another champion that has been buffed over the past 2 patches. This patch was not so much of a buff to Jace mid lane, but more of a buff to Jace in the Baron lane. But Jace is a champion that can flex into multiple roles. If you really want to, he can play in the jungle as well. He's not as strong in the jungle anymore, but he can still play there. But Jace is a champion that just has a whole kit that fits so many different purposes. If you want a poke champion that deals a lot of champion at range, then Jace can do that with his Shock Blast Acceleration Gate. Or if you're more of a bruiser champion that likes to jump in, you can use his melee form to do that as well. And you can build items like Black Cleaver and go for a more bruiser build. However, I think the best way to build Jace is to go for as much damage as possible. His Shock Blast plus Acceleration Gate deals so much damage overall, and so much damage to squishy champions. And then if you're able to combo this afterwards with the jumping in with your melee form, you can then combo this, do a bunch of damage, and pretty much one-shot anyone on the map. And with his base stats overall getting buffed, his base mana getting buffed means that he can use his abilities more often during the lane phase, his base health per level making him a bit tankier, and also his base armor per level also going up means that he has a bit more survivability when it comes to the lane phase, or even when it comes to team fights. So overall, Jace is a champion that I 100% recommend everyone picking up. As mentioned with the build, we're going for the full damage build. There's not really any defensive items except for really Edge of Night, which is going to go for full damage, as much damage as possible. And this gives us the best carry potential for Jace. Gluttonous Grease, I think, is the better alternative to the Boots of Dynamism. Since Boots of Dynamism does give you that early armor penetration, but I think the Omnivamp and the extra attack damage that you get from Gluttonous Grease is a better option. And since the rest of build has armor penetration anyway, we don't really need the extra armor penetration for the boots. Ghostblade, really cheap item, very, very effective as well. Gives Jace a bit of movement speed to help him move around the map more often. It's just a cheap item that gives him a lot of attack damage. Duskblade works really well when you're going to jump in melee form or when you're using your auto attacks at range. That extra auto attack damage when you're just about to join into a team fight is really, really huge and can help you one-shot squishy champions. Serratus Grudge for the slows when you're using your shot block acceleration gate can be super annoying to deal with, and it also has the percent armor penetration. Even though we have all plus armor penetration in our build, we still need percent armor penetration to help us against the tanks and the bruisers that are building a little bit of armor. As mentioned, Edge of Night is kind of our defensive item for that annual passive, giving us that little bit of a shield. And then we have Serpent's Fang as our last item, allowing us to help us a little bit against enemy champions that are shielding. But again, the last item can be flexible. You can build this earlier if you're against a lot of champions that have shielding. You can also swap this out for an anti-heal item like Chempunk Chainsword if you're against a lot of healing. Again, the last item is a bit of a situational option. As for the runes, First Strike is a no-brainer. Jace can always proc First Strike with his Shock Blast Acceleration Gate. It has one of the biggest ranges in Wild Rift, so you can use this Shock Blast Acceleration Gate, poke at range, and then use your Acceleration Gate to get that extra bit of movement speed to go into melee form, jump in, and deal that true damage. That's really where the power and basically the one-shot potential comes in for Jace, making him incredibly powerful. And for the rest of the runes, we've gone for a 4 aggressive runes with the Precision Tree and then also Sudden Impact as our second option. Brutal for the extra auto attack damage is a no-brainer. Again, Giant Slayer against tanks and bruisers is very important, and Legend Bloodline gives us that little bit of extra Omnivamp. And Sudden Impact is incredibly good when using your first ability in melee form. This counts as a dash, and when you get the extra armor penetration, especially in the early game, this can mean you can deal more damage with the true damage as well. You have to remember from First Strike, allowing him to one-shot any mid laner really in the game, and this can give you an early advantage to allow you to carry later on into the game. And for the summer spells, we have Flash and Ignite. Since we want to play very aggressive, especially when we hit level 3 with Jace, we have 6 abilities available to us, 3 in range form and 3 in melee form. So we can use this to our advantage and try and win that early game mid lane skirmish, and then that extra bit of gold will help us carry later on in the game. Now, when thinking of champions in the Dura lane, if I was to ask you who is the most annoying champion to play against, I would probably say 90% of you will probably say Caitlyn. And that is why Caitlyn is in my list for today's video. Not only that, but because of the Stormrazor buff that also came in the most recent patch, giving the energized attack more damage and also the slow going up by 0.25 seconds. This just makes Caitlyn even more annoying to play with. And the reason why Caitlyn is so annoying to play with is because of her incredible range. She has the highest attack range of any other Dura lane carry in the game right now, and this means that you can use that range advantage during the laning phase to poke out enemy champions, to deal damage, and even if you do get engaged on, you do have your third ability, your net, to be able to escape to safety. You can also use your trap super effectively during laning phase, or use this as sort of a zoning tool during team fights. So Caitlyn is a champion that can play super safe, has a lot of carry potential as well with her incredible amount of attack speed and also damage that you'll be able to get from this build. And of course, she has her ultimate as well that can shoot her sniper from incredibly far range, being able to execute champions that are super low on health. And another great thing about Caitlyn as well is that she can work with multiple different supports. If you have an enchanter support like a Nami or a Lulu, Caitlyn benefits from this a lot, from the extra attack speed and the extra sustain that you get from these champions. However, Caitlyn also works very well with engaged supports like Nautilus and Thresh, because she can use her trap as an easy engaged tool, or a second engaged tool after crowd control hits. Say for example, Thresh lands a hook. As soon as Thresh lands a hook, you can put the trap underneath that enemy champion and use that to deal extra damage with your headshot. A bit of an advanced tip, but something to definitely bear in mind when playing Caitlyn, and why, like I said, the champion is so strong right now, because she can fit so many different roles and she's also super safe to play. Now, as I mentioned with the build, this new Stormrazor buff means that Stormrazor is even stronger now on Caitlyn. Because of Caitlyn's incredible range, this helps you deal more damage from range with Stormrazor, and also helps you with that slow effect, because the slow effect going on for an extra 0.25 seconds means that this is enough time to get potentially 2 auto attacks in whilst the enemy champion is slowed, and that means you can close the gap, you can close the distance, and keep auto attacking that champion to deal more damage. Not to mention the extra range as well with Magnetic Blaster as well. This is just an item that works incredibly well in synergy with Stormrazor, since it has the passive that also allows you to regenerate the energized attack passive even quicker, so you get the passive attack more often, allowing you to deal more damage. This damage also stacks on top of each other as well, so not only are you going to deal a lot of auto attack damage and AD damage, you're actually going to be doing quite a bit of magic damage as well because of these 2 items. Now, of course, before then you want to go for Glutton's Greaves. These are still the best boots on most AD carries. Mortal Reminder for the armor penetration later on, and also to apply grievous wounds to enemy champions. You then have Bloodthirster. You still want a bit of healing, you still need Bloodthirster in your kit, because this item is still incredibly strong, but more of a later game item. And then Guardian Angel as your flexible last item. Guardian Angel is really good if you're against any assassins or any champions that like to dive on top of you, given that resurrect. However, you can go for items like more of Mortius instead if you're against a lot of magic damage. And as for the runes, Lethal Tempo, with Caitlyn's range, she can stack Lethal Tempo with her auto attacks very quickly, and just auto attacking more often with Caitlyn means that she can keep stacking her passive, allowing her to deal headshot damage and deal more damage over time, which works incredibly well for Caitlyn. Then for the other runes, I don't think there's going to be any surprise. We've got Brutal for the extra auto attack damage, Giant Slayer for the damage against any tanks or bruises on the enemy team, Legend Bloodline for the healing, and then Bone Plating as our secondary rune, with our summon spells being Flash and Ghost. Now, Ghost can be swapped out for Exhaust if need be. The only downside really of Exhaust is that since Caitlyn has a lot of range, her auto attack range is actually longer than the range of Exhaust. So that means that you have to stand quite close to enemy champions to exhaust them, or you need to wait until champions jump on top of you to use Exhaust. But I like Ghost because of her incredible range. She can use this to auto space, to auto attack from range, and she can also be very slippery to play against when Ghost is active. Last but by no means least, we have my guy Braum. Now, Braum has been a situational champion for quite some time. Braum is normally a great champion and is still a great champion against a lot of melee champions because of his passive, or against a lot of champions that have some sort of way to deal AoE damage with their abilities. For example, something like Nami Wave, something like Ornn Ultimate, because Braum can use his shield to defend his team and block these abilities, so he's the only one that takes that extra bit of damage. And because of the buffs that have happened to Braum in the most recent patch, more base attack damage doesn't really do too much. The base mana in early game is super effective. Concussive Blows, his passive, what I just spoke about, that has been increased. And Unbreakable, you now get more movement speed when using this ability, and also more damage reduction. Actually makes him a better champion in a lot more situations, and he's now a lot less of a situational champion and more of a must-pick champion in most games, since he's a champion that can play either super aggressive, you can jump in with your second ability and play aggressive with your ultimate and try and stack your passive, but he still has that same element of being able to protect his duo lane carry. And we talk about protecting duo lane carry, you probably think of champions like Yuumi, Nami, Janna, Lulu, you know, these sort of enchanters. I would say Braum is one above that, and Braum is one of the best protectors for dual lane carries, since he has his shield that can block damage and also has his passive which can stun enemies multiple times during a team fight. And when looking at the build for Braum, we obviously want to go for as many tank items as possible, since we want to make sure that we can survive a lot more often in team fights. But with these items, they bring a lot more to the game rather than just the tankiness. Items like Zeke's Convergence brings that huge massive AoE slow and allows your team to deal more damage to the targets that are within that circle around you. Dealing more damage is going to be super effective, and the slow is going to be very important as well for Braum, especially after using his ultimate. Protector's Vow as well gives you and your closest ally a shield. Again, that more protection value, that more protecting your dual lane carry is super important. Thornmail, even if enemy champions are going to be attacking us, which is going to be mostly the case since we are going to be blocking auto attacks every single time. This is then going to apply grievous wounds, which means they can't heal as much during team fights, and Twin Guard for the extra bit of tankiness as well. The extra armor and magic resist that we can get from Twin Guard means that we're going to have a lot more survivability in team fights. For the boots, you either go for armor or magic resist boots. Both of these boots are completely fine. And for the support item, Relic Shield is the best option. You can stack this very quickly during the laning phase, and also it will give Braum more health over time. Now, as for the runes, Braum doesn't really have a main rune in Wild Rift. He kind of has a bit of difficulty with rune setups, and this is probably one of the reasons why he got buffed. Glacial Augment is an okay option. It works with his passive and his ultimate. Aftershock is also another option, but these are not really reliable. If you're relying on your ultimate and your passive to try and proc a rune, doesn't make it as strong. But we don't have runes from PC League like Guardian yet or anything like that, so I think the Glacial Augment is still the best option. That big massive array of slows and also reducing the damage of enemy champions, I think, is the best option for Braum at this current time. As for the other runes, Font of Life, we're going to go for the Resolve Tree, of course. Font of Life, when we're using our first ability, our dual lane carry can also auto attack that same champion, giving us a bit of healing. Bone Plating will help with the survivability, as well as Overgrowth with the extra health that we'll be gaining over time. And as for the secondary rune, I really like Transcendence. I think Ability Haste is super important for Braum. This allows him to use his abilities more often, especially his shield as well, especially with his Unbreakable Shield now blocking up to 50% damage. It makes such a big difference if this ability is up more often. And then for the summer spells, we have Flash and Ignite. Now, Ignite is a lot more of an aggressive option. You can also go for Summon Heal as another option if you want to play a little bit more defensive. And that's it for today's Wild Rift video. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of these 5 champions. And also let me know if you feel like I've forgotten any champions at all in this patch. There are a lot of strong champions at the moment this patch, so it's really hard to pick one from every single role. And also I want to try and make them unique every single time as well to cover more champions in this series. But as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next Wild video. Peace.